Hello and welcome to the 8th webinar in our Lunch, Learn and Dance Wellness webinar series, Regulatory Bodies and International Agencies. I am Lynn McDonald, Liaison Scientist with the Radiation Safety Institute of Canada. Joining me in our chat room is Maria Costa and our Manager of Training, Tara Hargraves. Kim Ramos from the Arawaku Latin Dance Company in Toronto will lead us in dance beginning at 12:30. Let's take a moment to go over the functionality of the Zoom webinar. The audio and video will be from the presenters only. We have found that although you can access the audio through the computer or telephone, the quality of sound tends to be better when listening from a computer. There is a chat feature where people can discuss. If you would like, take a moment now to say hello and where you are from. If you have questions arising from the content, please enter them under the Q&A section. As the webinar is only a half hour in length and is immediately followed by our dance session, time may not permit for me to answer them during the webinar. The answers will be posted on our website, along with a link to the video recording and a copy of the slides. This can be found under Education Webinars. I will be sending a confirmation of attendance email after the webinar and will include a link to the page with that communication. I will also include the topics covered and the length of time spent in the webinar, as some people have requested this to send to the professional association. Lastly, I have automatic closed captioning enabled in the slide presentation. If they're being blocked by your Zoom controls, you should be able to select a different way to view the webinar in Zoom, which makes them easier to see. In this session, we will overview regulatory bodies in Canada, the Canadian Radiation Protection Association, and the Radiation Safety Institute of Canada. We will then look at numerous international agencies and finish off with a word on the Health Physics Society. Focus will be given to those organizations which have information or resources directly related to radiation protection. Descriptions and images of organizations are taken directly or paraphrased from the respective websites or social media outlets. Due to time constraints, links to the agencies mentioned will be given in the resources reference pages so that you may explore those of interest in more detail. Radiation is the transfer of energy out from a source. Sources of radiation are found everywhere. Depending upon how much energy they carry and how they interact with matter, radiation can be used in numerous ways. However, some forms of radiation can cause harm to living things in their environments. For this reason, laws and regulations are in place to ensure these sources are used safely. One distinction between radiation sources is whether or not they are ionizing. Do they deposit enough energy to remove electrons from their orbits from neutral atoms or molecules? Sources that are ionizing are considered more dangerous than those which are non-ionizing. For this reason, sources of high energy ionizing radiation tend to be regulated by the federal government, and sources of low energy ionizing and non-ionizing radiation tend to be regulated provincially or territorially. Federal responsibilities include all aspects of nuclear energy. Legislation includes the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, the Nuclear Energy Act, the Nuclear Fuel Waste Act, and the Nuclear Liability and Compensation Act, along with sections of the Environmental Protection Act of Canada and the Transportation of Dangerous Goods Act. The federal government also regulates aspects of ionizing and non-ionizing radiation through the Radiation Emitting Devices Act, or RED Act. With respect to radiation, most X-ray equipment, including CT scanners, low-energy particle accelerators less than 1 mega-electron volt, and sources of non-ionizing radiation such as laser, UV, ultrasound, and noise fall under provincial and territorial jurisdiction. Naturally occurring radioactive material, or NORM, is also provincial and territorially regulated, excepting transport, import, and export, which are federally regulated. Federally, there are two bodies which report to the Minister of Natural Resources to the Parliament of Canada regarding the Canadian Nuclear Energy Program, the CNSC and AECL. As Canada's nuclear regulator, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission is an independent administrative tribunal set up at arm's length from the government with no ties to the nuclear industry. The CNSC reports to Parliament through the Minister of Natural Resources. Its decisions are reviewable only by the Federal Court of Canada. Its mandate is to regulate the use of nuclear energy and materials to protect health, safety, security, and the environment, to implement Canada's international commitments on the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and to disseminate objective scientific, technical, and regulatory information to the public. The Commission has up to 7 appointed permanent members whose decisions are supported by more than 800 employees. The Commission makes its decisions transparently and provides extensive reasons for its decisions. The CNSC has in place a number of memoranda of agreement with domestic and foreign agencies or departments. The Atomic Energy of Canada Limited is a federal crown corporation established in 1952 to develop peaceful applications of nuclear energy. Its current mandate is to enable nuclear science and technology and to protect the environment by fulfilling the Government of Canada's radioactive waste and decommissioning responsibilities. It delivers this mandate through a contract with the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, or CNL. Health Canada published safety codes for different types of X-ray equipment, which offer requirements and guidance which are sometimes adopted into provincial or territorial regulations. They also have safety codes for radio frequency electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic fields, and ultrasound. Similarly, they have guidelines available on a wide range of radiation-related topics, including laser hair removal, emergency planning, and dosimetry, amongst others. They also provide extensive information on radon and reports on various technical radiation topics for both the public and industry. There are several other federal government agencies and departments responsible for various aspects of radiation and radiation protection. These include Transport Canada, the Department of National Defence, Global Affairs Canada, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, Environment Canada, and Employment and Social Development Canada. Non-ionizing and low-dose X-ray equipment and particle accelerators are regulated provincially. As the regulations vary by province, please check with your provincial government for the specifics of your situation. As you can see, there is a need for good communication between the federal and provincial and territorial levels of government on the topic of radiation and radiation safety. The Federal Provincial Territorial Radiation Protection Committee, or FPTRPC, formed in 1993 as an independent committee which has its reporting relationship through the member jurisdiction departments after the dissolution of the Federal Provincial Subcommittee on Radiation Surveillance at that time. Their role is to serve the primary governmental forum to develop, promote, coordinate, and harmonize the standards and practices for radiation protection within federal, provincial, and territorial jurisdictions within Canada, while recognizing the distinct responsibilities that each jurisdiction has in this field. To do this, they also communicate with relevant international agencies. Delegates on the committee include one from the CNSC, the Department of National Defence, and each province or territory except Ontario. Two delegates from Health Canada, from the Radiation Protection Bureau and the Consumer and Clinical Radiation Protection Bureau, and the Province of Ontario, from the Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, are permitted. The work of the committee is further broken into the following categories: diagnostic radiology, dose limits and worker issues, dosimetry services and dose records, FPTRPC administration, standards and guidelines, naturally occurring radioactive materials or NORM, non-ionizing radiation, nuclear medicine and radiotherapy, nuclear emergency preparedness, radiation emitting devices, radiation safety and control issues, and resources in Canada. The Canadian Radiation Protection Association is a professional organization that supports the development of radiation safety protection programs. They are a voice of Canadian radiation safety professionals, drawing members from all areas of radiation protection. They provide a professional certification system with successful candidates receiving a designation of CRPA-R. Where does the Radiation Safety Institute of Canada fit into this picture? First, a bit of history is needed. In 1953, uranium was discovered. 2 years later, the community of Elliott Lake was established due to locating uranium deposits. Uranium mining occurred in Elliott Lake from that time until 1990. In 1974, there was a mining strike over health and safety concerns, including the high incidence of lung cancer. The Ham Commission was appointed to investigate these concerns. According to the Ontario WSIB, there were 221 compensated lung cancer deaths, costing $85 million. As part of the response to the Elliott Lake disaster, the Institute was founded. The Radiation Safety Institute of Canada has the unique role within the Canadian radiation protection community. We are an independent, not-for-profit, whose sole concern is radiation safety. We strive to meet our motto to provide good science and plain language to those who wish to know more about radiation and radiation safety. We also provide independent alpha dosimetry to uranium miners and other laboratory services. We will now look at international agencies involved in radiation protection. The United Nations has powers granted to it through an international treaty of 193 member states. Its work is broken into 5 main areas: to maintain international peace and security, protect human rights, deliver humanitarian aid, support sustainable development and climate action, and uphold international law. As part of its mandate, it runs several working groups directly or indirectly involved in radiation safety and has formal associations with other recognized groups. One such UN committee is the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, or UNSCEAR. The committee was established by the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1955. Its mandate in the United Nations system is to assess and report as the scientific basis for evaluation radiation risk, to assess and report levels and effects of exposure to ionizing radiation. Governments and organizations throughout the world rely on the committee's estimates as the scientific basis for evaluating radiation risk and for establishing protective measures. The committee's mandate is to assess and report levels, effects, and risks of exposure to ionizing radiation. The International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, is widely known as the world's Atoms for Peace and Development organization within the United Nations family. It works as the world's central intergovernmental forum for scientific and technical cooperation in the nuclear field. The agency works with its member states and multiple partners worldwide to promote the safe, secure, and peaceful use of nuclear technologies. They are an independent agency with a special agreement with the UN, reporting annually to the General Assembly and sometimes the Security Council. The IAEA provides a wide range of information, including scientific and technical publications, general interest material, a number of information systems and data services, an information library, and software packages. One of the ongoing projects maintained by the IAEA is the Occupational Radiation Protection Networks, or ORPNet. ORPNet is a web-based network which acts as a focal point for occupational radiation protection, providing comprehensive knowledge about worldwide, regional, and national networks and systems in radiation protection of workers. ORPNet spreads good practices, facilitates ALARA implementation, supports experience exchange, and aims to prevent avoiding any overlap of activities at the national and international level. The World Health Organization, or WHO, is a partner with the United Nations, countries, international organizations, civil society, foundations, academia, and research institutions to improve the health of people and communities and to support their development. They are involved in international projects related to both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. They make available information on radiation and radiation protection as one of a number of health topics. 2 organizations related to the World Health Organization of interest to those involved in radiation protection are the IARC and ISR. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, or IARC, is the specialized cancer agency of the World Health Organization. The objective of the IARC is to promote international collaboration in cancer research. They provide a wealth of information on the topic of cancer, including monographs on the carcinogenity of the materials. Other resources include a media center, research, publications, training, and events. The International Society of Radiology, or ISR, is a non-governmental organization in official relation with the World Health Organization. It is a federation of the world's national radiological societies with a mission to facilitate the global endeavors of the ISR's member organizations in order to improve patient care and population health through diagnostic medical imaging and image-guided interventions. They are home to the ISR Quality and Safety Alliance, or ISR-QSA. The ISR-QSA acts as a convener and facilitator for continental, regional, and national quality and safety campaigns in radiation protection and drives the ISR's quality and safety agenda, including the Bonn Call for Action. The Bonn Call for Action seeks to foster coordinated work to address issues arising in radiation protection in medicine. It was issued at an IAEA organized and World Health Organization and Pan American Health Organization co-sponsored international conference held in Bonn, Germany in 2012 and strengthened at the follow-up conference in Vienna, Austria in 2017. Numerous stakeholder groups and countries sign on to implement the Bonn Call to Action. As a result of the Bonn Call to Action, numerous safe imaging organizations are at various stages of development around the world. These organizations, which are members of the ISR-QSA, provide information and support on best practices in imaging with respect to radiation safety. The Bonn Call to Action is an important initiative because medical uses of radiation typically require the physician to balance the need for imaging with the need to keep doses low, rather than having set regulatory limits. Also, radiation dose arising from medical uses has increased as new technologies have been developed. The United Nations has 3 associated groups whose mandate is not directly radiation safety, but are asked upon to give input into matters of radiation safety at the international level due to the nature of their work. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or FAO, has interest due to the use of radiation in agriculture processes and concern for the protection of the food chain from radioactive contamination in the case of an emergency. The International Labor Organization brings together governments, employers, and workers of 187 member states to set labor standards, develop policies, and devise programs promoting decent work for all women and men. In addition to giving a voice to those it represents during the development of international radiation protection policy, their website includes information on radiation protection. The International Telecommunication Union, or ITU, is the United Nations specialized agency for information and communication technologies. Founded to facilitate international connectivity and communications networks, they allocate global radio spectrum and satellite orbits, develop the technical standards that ensure networks and technologies seamlessly interconnect, and strive to improve access to communication technologies to underserved communities worldwide. In this role, they submit responses to public consultation in radiation protection as a stakeholder group and review standards in the field of radiation protection. 2 independent organizations directly involved in radiation protection on an international level are the ICRP and the IRPA. Each has a different focus. The ICRP is an independent, not-for-profit, international organization that advances the public benefit, the science of radiological protection, in particular by providing recommendations and guidance on all aspects of protection against ionizing radiation. In preparing its recommendations, ICRP considers the fundamental principles and quantitative bases upon which appropriate radiation protection measures can be established, while leaving to the various national protection bodies the responsibility of formulating the specific advice, codes of practice, or regulations that are best suited to the needs of their individual countries. Originally, ICRP published its recommendations and advice as papers in various scientific journals in the fields of medicine and physics. Since 1959, the ICRP has produced its own series of publications. Beginning in 1977, these publications took the shape of a scientific journal, Annals of the ICRP, now published by SAGE. During this time, the ICRP has published well over 100 publications on all aspects of radiological protection. Most address a particular area within radiological protection, but a handful of publications, the so-called fundamental recommendations, each describe the overall system of radiological protection. ICRP recommendations form the basis of radiological protection standards, legislation, programs, and practice worldwide. The IRPA, on the other hand, describes themselves as the international voice of the radiation protection profession. IRPA has the preeminent role in the generic field of practice. They have the involvement of professionals and practitioners across all fields of radiation protection, covering scientific research, teaching, regulation, medical practice, nuclear and non-nuclear industry, national and international policy, and all other fields from all around the world. The primary objective of the IRPA is to provide a medium whereby international contacts and cooperation may be promoted among those engaged in radiation protection work, which includes relevant aspects of such branches of knowledge as science, medicine, engineering, technology, and law, in the effort to provide for the protection of people and the environment from the hazards caused by ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, and thereby to facilitate, in fact, the exploitation of radiation and nuclear energy for the benefit of mankind. They provide news, congresses, guidance documents, education, and training. There are a number of occupational groups with an interest in radiation protection around the world. These 6 are international in nature and have members who work directly with radiation sources, tools, or machines. The ICNDT is a nonprofit organization devoted to the international development of the science and practice of non-destructive testing in conjunction with individual non-destructive testing societies and recognized continental groupings of non-destructive testing societies. The objectives of the International Organization for Medical Physics are to organize international cooperation in medical physics and allied subjects, to contribute to the advancement of medical physics in all its aspects, especially in developing countries, and to encourage and advise on the formation of national organizations of medical physics in those countries which lack such organizations. The vision of the ISRRT is to be the leading international organization representing the practice of medical imaging and radiation therapy technology by promoting the highest achievable standards of patient care and professional practice. The ISRRT was a stakeholder and participant at the Bonn Call for Action meeting, making a number of positive contributions. The World Nuclear Transport Institute describes themselves as the voice of the nuclear transport industry. They are dedicated to the safe, secure, efficient, and reliable transport of radioactive materials. The WNTI represents their members and their interest to a number of intergovernmental organizations, UN specialized agencies, and non-governmental bodies during the development and revision of regulations, guides, and standards, including those for radiation safety. The mission of Women in Nuclear is related to the promotion of nuclear technologies and careers in nuclear, with an eye to achieving diversity and, in particular, gender balance in nuclear science professions. Part of their vision includes exchanging information and raising awareness of the safety measures that ensure protection of the public and the environment. The World Association of Nuclear Operators aims to unite every company and country in the world that has an operating commercial nuclear power plant to achieve the highest possible standards of nuclear safety. Their mission is to maximize the safety and reliability of nuclear power plants worldwide by working together to assess, benchmark, and improve performance through mutual support, exchange of information, and emulation of best practices. Two international organizations which provide information with respect to radiation safety as it pertains to the nuclear energy industry are the NEA and the WNA. The OECD, Nuclear Energy Agency, or NEA, is an intergovernmental agency that facilitates cooperation among countries with advanced nuclear technology infrastructure to seek excellence in nuclear safety, technology, science, environment, and law. The objective of the agency is to assist its member countries in maintaining and further developing, through international cooperation, the scientific, technical, and legal basis required for a safe, environmentally sound, and economical use of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. It provides authoritative assessments and forges common understandings on key issues as input to government decisions on nuclear energy policy and to broader OECD analyses in areas such as energy and the sustainable development of low carbon economies. The World Nuclear Association is the international organization that represents the global nuclear industry. Its mission is to provide a wider understanding of nuclear energy among key international influencers by producing authoritative information, developing common industry positions, and contributing to the energy debate. World Nuclear Association is the only industry organization with a global mandate to promote nuclear energy. As with many industries in the modern world, standardization is a foundational need in radiation protection. The ICRU, IEC, and ISO are all involved in standards related to radiation protection to varying degrees. The International Commission on Radiation Units, or ICRU, has a mandate to develop and promulgate internationally accepted recommendations on radiation-related quantities and units, terminology, measurement procedures, and reference data for the safe and efficient application of ionizing radiation to medical diagnosis and therapy, radiation science and technology, and radiation protection of individuals and populations. The Journal of the ICRU is a mainstay in the field. The International Electrotechnical Commission is a global, not-for-profit membership organization whose work underpins quality infrastructure and international trade in electrical and electronic goods. Through their national committees, they provide the management expertise and send experts to represent national needs in global IEC standardization and conformity assessment arena. The ISO is a global network of the world's leading standardizers. Their members consist of the national standards bodies in 165 different countries, which come together to develop international standards. They also work to help raise public awareness of standards and standardization. Both the IEC and ISO may be called upon to give input into radiation protection standards development and have a number of standards related to radiation. Many of the previously mentioned groups belong to an umbrella organization, the Interagency Committee on Radiation Safety, or IACRS. The objective of the IACRS is to promote consistency and coordination of policies with respect to areas of common interest in radiation protection. They provide a forum to exchange information in order to avoid inconsistency or unnecessary duplication of radiation safety standards and recommendations. They consider proposals to the IAEA to initiate a process for the review and possible revision of the radiation protection and safety of radiation sources, international basic safety standards, and to assist in those processes as appropriate. While many of the previously mentioned organizations either work in the area of ionizing radiation or both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, the ICNIRP's sole aim is to protect people and the environment against adverse effects of non-ionizing radiation. It is formally recognized as an official collaborating non-state actor by the World Health Organization and the International Labor Organization. Although it is not an international organization per se, the Health Physics Society from the United States of America is one national organization which is frequently referenced elsewhere. Prior to the formation of the Canadian Radiation Protection Association in 1979, Canadians involved in radiation protection were for the most part members of the Health Physics Society. The Health Physics Society provides a wealth of information on all aspects of radiation safety. It is also the home of the Health Physics Journal. Although the system of units in the USA is different than that in most countries, many articles provided by the Health Physics Society include both measurement systems. We hope you have enjoyed this overview of regulatory bodies in Canada and international agencies. If you have any further questions about ionizing or non-ionizing radiation, please feel free to contact us toll-free at 1-800-263-5803 or by email at info@radiationsafety.ca. Visit us on the web at www.radiationsafety.ca or find us on Facebook. I'm just going to click through the slides with the references so that people who are watching the video can see them, but they will also be included with links in the email I send out. And then we'll turn it over to Kim for dance.